Redevelopment Commission to order at 4:30 p.m. And Randy, ask the roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Present.
Mr. Hoover?
Here.
Mr. Moan?
Here.
Mr. Hopper?
Here.
Non-voting advisor, Mr. Alexander?
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum.
Thank you. The minutes of the regular meeting of May 16, 2019 have been distributed to members of the board. Any questions, additions, deletions? Is there a motion for approval of the minutes as presented?
So motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Next, we'll move on to under new business, resolution number 2019-07, a resolution approving application for property tax deductions for certain real estate located within the Greenwood Central Economic Development Area, SCS Construction Services, Inc. Who is going to address us on this?
Aye.
Good evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, my name is Dale Bertner. I'm the controller for SCS Construction. This is some information that we'll go over in a few moments. I was trying to figure out how is the best way to talk about the project. I came up with some questions that maybe you would be asking, so I just kind of went through and answered some of those questions up front, hopefully. SCS Construction is our company. We're a small general contractor here in the Greenwood area. Been in business for 15 years. We've completed over $100 million in new development and renovations. And we are a national contractor for Planet Fitness. So things have been doing good for us and moving along. Where is the property? This property is located at 173 East Broadway. It has 28,000 square feet of building, 16,000 feet is for office space, and 12,000 is in warehouse, sitting on just below 1 acre of land. Why did we pick Greenwood? We have based our operations the last 10 years in Greenwood, and we'd like to continue to stay in the community and support the local community. So how is this project good for Greenwood? This project was recently vacated and in bad need of repairs inside and out. It is located across the street from Isom Elementary School, and these improvements will enhance the neighborhood and give parents a better feeling of putting their children in school there. Security cameras have been installed outside the building to deter crime and assist local law officers if needed. SCS has also lined up one additional tenant to occupy space in the building, so already bringing more local business here. And we also have 8,000 square feet on the second floor that we anticipate building out later on for additional tenants on the property. So at this time, I'd like to go to the pictures that we have passed out. I won't labor on these, just want to talk about them a little bit. If there's questions, please let me know. This is a picture of the back of the building, for those of you not familiar with it. Obviously, we'll be repainting the whole building. We've talked about removing the trees and cleaning things up a little bit. The next picture is on the east side of the building. There's several points throughout the building around where the brick has been damaged, and you might even ever see on the left side that large overhead door opening with big chunks been taken out. So we'll be repairing all of the exterior of the building. And I think that's on that picture. Here's another picture of the east side of the building, but from Mansion Broadway. On this picture, you can see the loading docks. The proposal that we're planning on the renovations is to take both of those loading docks, doors out, and block those in, and then fill in the dock area itself and repave this area for parking. So there's additional parking on the side of the building here as well. And then down towards the corner of the building by Broadway, we're going to be cutting holes in the block and putting in 4 additional windows, not only for office space, natural light inside, but for an appealing from the outside. The next picture is looking at the north side of the building. As you can see, big trees there. We're going to go through and remove all those trees and clean that up. Those windows do extend all the way across the top. So I'm sure it looked nice at one time. Yeah, just cleaning up the exterior there in the front. Moving to the next picture, just on the west side of the building, just cleaning that up. That's the main entrance on the side. Cleaning that up a little bit. This is just another picture over. This building on the property itself. We don't have any current use for it. We may in the future. And then this last picture is a little kind of like why I'm taking this picture. This is a picture of the far east side of the building, looking up over the top of this auto repair shop. Obviously, needing scraped and painted and repairing that as well. The larger printouts show you the air diagram of the building and the property. Nothing more special there, just to show you the overall area of the property. The next picture is a detail of the inside with the warehouse space in the back, and then the bill out on the bottom, which we'll talk about a little bit more on the following pages if you can read a little bit better. You can see large 2 different warehouse spaces in the back that we utilize. The next printout is one where what is currently in there now. This is the layout of the current first floor. And this will be a full gut. We're going to go in and completely gut this entire area, restrooms and everything out, take out the walls, ceilings, and then start from scratch. And then the last page is the actual proposal of what we're doing, which basically offices, cubicle areas, conference rooms, brand new restrooms, and then the tenant build out is to the back, right, if you will, with a separate entrance. And then we have a storage area, which also can then be used for future build out for ourselves as we grow as a company. And then the only other thing I want to add to that is just, excuse me, no, I apologize. I'm getting dry mouth there. Talk a little about the actual tax assessments information that you already have has been presented. In summary, the assessed value of the property is currently $155,000 for the land and $204,000 for the building. The current real estate and personal property would yield about $7,600 per year. The new assessed value for the land, of course, would be the same, $155,000. The building would jump to $829,000 with our improvements. Basically, we are estimating $100,000 to the outside of the property and $300,000 to the inside of the first floor. The new real estate personal property tax would then yield about $19,500 per year. We are asking for a 10-year abatement, which would give us a total total cost of $195,690, with abated $82,240, and us paying taxes on that $113,450. And then the last thing I thought that you might want to ask is, what does SCS, what's the future look like for SCS? We're also having a succession planning process where the owner is grooming his son to take over the properties, take over the business. So hopefully SCS will be around for another 30 years.
Any questions from members of the commission?
Just for the record, Mr. Bertner and I are longtime friends, so I'll be recusing myself.
Dale, I got a question. So service
SCS?
Service master, there we go. Are they still there or?
No, they have sold their property. They moved out and sold the business. It's the
So where are you guys right now?
Excuse me, the address is 156 Park, we're down at the, it's called South Park.
Yeah.
Main Street.
Yep.
And 65.
Yeah, okay. Great.
Yeah, we'll just have a small office there in that back strip
Okay.
mall.
Gotcha, thank you.
So it's vacant, the property's vacant now,
Well, the property,
partially?
it's not vacant now, because of we tried to hold off our purchasing of the property, but we ended up actually closed on it last week. We was hoping to be in with this meeting last month, but didn't know about it, then of course, when we found out that it was nice, like, okay, so we had to purchase.
So you've got some of your stuff in it, is that what you're saying?
Do we have our stuff in it right now? No. We have not done any, we've not moved into it at all.
And the auto place is still gonna remain there, right?
Is it what now?
And the auto, you mentioned the auto.
I imagine, yes, that's
Okay.
obviously not ours.
So what's your timetable for getting this all done?
Well, we are hoping to be successful here so that we can start the renovation process and be able to get this moving. So we'd like to be able to have everything finished up in about 8 to 10 weeks. And being a general contractor, we have the resources to get that done.
Further questions? Have you all had an opportunity to review resolution 2019-07? Is there action you wish to take with respect to this proposed resolution?
I would move that we approve the motion as presented.
I would second that.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Amanda will note that Mr. Campbell recused himself.
Mr. Hopper, would you be willing to sponsor for the council?
Yeah, me too, sure.
Thank you.
So be on Mondays at council
It'll be on Monday's council agenda, so you'll need to come to Monday. I'll send you an email
Okay,
for Monday's meeting as well,
that'd be great.
tomorrow.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Next on our agenda is Resolution 2019-08. My understanding this is being withdrawn from consideration for this evening's meeting. So we'll move on to Resolution number 2019-09. A resolution approving an application for property tax deductions for certain real property located within the East Side Economic Development Area. This is for Becknell Industrial Buildings 4 and 5. Good evening.
Good evening. Derek Hawkins with Becknell Industrial, good to be with you all. Your request is, as mentioned, buildings 4 and 5 at South Neck Business Park at the corner of Graham Road and Main Street. The request is for a 10-year real property tax payment for both buildings. Building 4 is approximately 158,000 feet, and building 5 is approximately 170,000 feet. Total combined investment approximately $17.5 million. These two buildings will have similar characteristics, look from design and physical characteristics and paint scheme as our two existing buildings that we have under construction just to the north of this subject parcel. Our marketing strategy right now, we've got the property under contract for 60 days. We are targeting build to suits while we continue our spec construction on the first two buildings, buildings 1 and 2. It's yielded some pretty good results so far. Based upon our experience with these size of buildings, these tend to lend themselves to more light manufacturing and value-add tenants. We have a couple examples here in Greenland as well with our pointer sheet metal building at 100,000 feet and polytainer, our 999 current core building. I believe Mr. Sherman, who couldn't be here today, had distributed some materials previously, so I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has.
I do have just a procedure question. Have we received a legal description for the property yet?
We did, it has been inserted.
It's part of a platted lot.
No, we had a land description, I wanna say it, I got that done, but you're looking at me like maybe I didn't.
Just checked the SharePoint copy and I didn't see it there.
Give me 5 minutes and it will be there. It's in this system, I just did not get a copy of it.
Thank you.
And Dick, you have committed tenants to this property, right? These buildings.
We do not. We just started marketing it about 60 days ago. We do have prospects. Nothing signed as of.
But you have somebody in line that there's a reason for the expediency of doing this?
No, we're really hoping to have this done within our sort of our due diligence period for purchase of the site.
Okay. And when does that period end, Eric?
I believe it's the end of July.
So I noticed on your start date for building 4, it's a year from next April, and then building 5 is 2 years from next April.
I believe that is correct.
Okay.
Not that it makes a difference to me, but we're back on those 190, 80, 70, 60. And that is not the one we adopted, was it? Didn't we adopt the other one? Do you remember?
The one we just did, and it's neither one of these, it was a different one.
No, the application.
Oh, I mean the rezoning.
The
No, our-
tax
our
payment
schedule.
application schedule was
Did we adopt
was-
the 185, 60?
No, it was that you've adopted the 80, 90, 70, 60, 50. And then the 5-year plan was, I believe 20%.
Yeah, I believe we had adopted it, but when we redid the abatement ordinance, I think the new schedule was added to that.
I can tell you what that is in just a moment, I can pull it up real quick later.
But the last one we approved was a different schedule.
Yeah. Because
Through
we
the RDC,
adopted the
yes.
old schedule. Not, that's what we had here, 10% step down schedule.
The revised application you adopted in February includes, it is a schedule of, you're correct, it is 195, 80, 65, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. And the equipment is the 190, 80, 70, 60, 50.
We can adopt one.
I missed the comment over here.
So the schedule that the council adopted for tax abatements is an older schedule. Say again, Amanda.
It's the
95.
deduction schedule is 100%, 95, 80, 65, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5% for the 10-year schedule. Mr. Sherman, what they proposed is different than what's the actual application.
Gotcha. And the projections are based upon a more straight line, even numbered abatement schedule. I see what you're saying. Now, the petitioner certainly can modify his application to be consistent with that, but right now, we would be asking for, the even version that is
Well,
presented.
as I recall from the one we made Pat change, the city comes out a little better in the old schedule than the straight 10% each year schedule.
So are you suggesting we leave it at the old schedule? Okay.
Just mentioning it doesn't matter to me one way or the other, honestly. But the commission has strong feelings.
As long as it doesn't interfere with some sort of a policy of some kind, I have no problem with the schedule that's been presented.
I do have one other question. As commission knows, it's our policy to ask for a firm start and completion date. I don't know if that's been shared with you or not, but right now, I believe your application does not include anything that would be clearly a firm start and completion date. We have estimated or sort of projected dates. And are you able to either confirm that those can be treated as firm dates, or would you like to propose some other firm dates?
I can confirm those dates. Be fine.
So
Yes.
we can treat those as firm commitments.
Correct.
That you will start and complete by those dates.
Correct.
Thank you.
Further questions, clarification, or for any other purpose? And as with your other Becknell projects, this will continue to be a Becknell property group. Becknell manages.
Correct. We
operates.
will acquire the property, build it, construct it, and own it long term.
We have before us resolution 2019-09. A resolution approving this application. Is there action you wish to take on this resolution?
I motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Thank you very much.
Will either of you be willing to sponsor it, council?
Sure.
Thank you.
Joint sponsors. Next, the Indy Chamber 2019 Accelerate Indy. I'm not sure who's got this. Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, thank you everybody for having us here. Spend a few minutes just giving you an update. I'm Jacob Everett. I'm one of the vice presidents at the Indy Chamber. I oversee the Indy Partnership Team. My colleague Amy Stansfield Curtis works with a lot of our communities, our investors. Just wanted to give you a brief update. I think we were here just about a year ago before you. We've been working with Dana Monson and Christian and Mayor Myers and his team now for a few years and really enjoy the partnership. So just wanted to update you on the investment of Greenwood's funds into our programming. So as you know, the Accelerate Indy plan was born with a comprehensive economic development strategy that was developed 4 or 5 years ago. I know the city of Greenwood, Mayor Myers, were heavily involved in that. The 9 counties worked together to develop an economic development strategy. And one of the big things that came out of that was the need for a really robust regional program in terms of economic development, and that's what my team at the Indy Chamber does. These are some of our private sector funders. So we've been raising funds now for the past 3 years to fund this endeavor. Thanks to your support, Greenwood's been a strong partner since the beginning. And again, these are all of some of our major private sector investors from around the region. So really what my team does, we do regional marketing, business development, and we also have a new initiative around talent attraction. So regional marketing is really going out there and selling the collective assets that we have here in the Indianapolis region, and hopefully turning that into business development leads that we share with Dana and Christian and the cities of Greenwood and Franklin, as well as our other regional partners. We do a lot of that by going out and working with consultants and real estate professionals and companies around the country and around the world, just trying to get Indianapolis on their radar and get them interested in investing and growing businesses here. We have added someone to our staff just recently that's focused solely on talent attraction. She was actually here, I believe, in Greenwood this morning, meeting with Christian and Dana to talk about how our strategies at the regional level can mesh with what's going on here locally with some of the branding and messaging efforts here in Johnson County. So we focus much like everybody in the Midwest. We focus on these sectors and really try to target our efforts in attracting jobs and investment. As you all are all aware, technology really cuts across all of our industries now, and so we're really focused on companies that are growing and operating in a high-tech environment. We do keep track of all the economic development investments that are happening across the 9-county region, and you see there on the bottom, last year was actually the highest dollar amount investment year that we have on record, so almost 20 years ago. So 2.4 billion and 10,000 new jobs committed during 2018 throughout the 9-county region. You guys know these stats as well. Just wanted to point this out. We do have a resource out there if you ever need any information as you're making decisions. There's a lot of data points available that are kept up to date at that web address there. But these are some of the data points we use as we're out there promoting the region. And we're never promoting just part of the region. We are promoting the entire 9-county area and all the various assets that we have. Our size and scale at 2 million people with a large workforce, urban, suburban, rural communities. That's really where the magic happens with the combination of all that and all within relative proximity to each other. We talk a lot about the big companies we have here, and certainly that's true here in Johnson County and Greenwood. Of course, Andrews Hauser. We talk about Nestle having both their operation here and up in Anderson, and then a lot of the other big companies. So just the depth and breadth of the companies that we can represent and discuss with potential investors is a big selling point for the Indy region. We also talk a lot about the corporate headquarters and major operation, North American headquarters, and so on that a lot of foreign companies have here. So we try to point that out, that not only do we have a lot of domestic investment, but we have huge investments, as you know, from Japan, and of course Germany, UK. We just signed an MOU with a region in France to try to build relations with them in the Indy region as well. That MOU is specifically targeted at a new asset we have called the Global Indy Business Center. This is a free space for international companies looking to come to the U.S. so they can come have free office space in the Indy Chamber for up to 6 months. We think this is a good way for them to get their feet wet in the U.S., finalize their strategy before they go and sign a lease. So we've got a lot of interest in this from, frankly, a lot of countries, specifically in Europe and in Canada. So we haven't had our first tenant yet, but we're looking forward to that. Another thing we do is use some of the events we have here in Indianapolis to show off the region. And get investors and influencers here in town and show them around and get them acclimated with what's going on here. We had a big concert here earlier in the year. We had, I think, 6 site consultants from around the country spend a couple days with us. They got to experience Indianapolis. We have got at least one direct lead as a result of that shortly after they were here. For the 500, we had a Danish company that's actually looking here on the south side of the region. They do not have a U.S. operation yet, but they are looking at either here or Virginia because they have a customer in those locations, so they're going to set up their operation in one of those two places. So they spent an afternoon with us at the track and got a chance to meet with their customer, and it was a great day. They actually got to meet with an Australian company that just recently made a commitment to invest here, so that was a great opportunity. We brought in 2 site consultants, and I mentioned our relationship with France. So we're out there constantly telling the story of the Indy region and trying to generate interest from companies and investors. Over the last 2 years, this is what our relationship with Johnson County has looked like. Again, we work heavily with Dana and her group, and then directly with the mayor's office here as well. We have either collaborated with them or brought them. You put those 2 categories together, 65 projects we worked on together. When we send out a project, often it goes to the entire region. Dana or the city of Greenwood or both of them together have submitted on almost half of those. They said, yeah, we have something that would work for this. A few successes in that time period. Those red ones are ones that have come here to Johnson County. So DIA is a distribution project I worked directly on with Dana, and we located them here. And hardware sales was one. Didn't require any incentives, a small operation, but they took down, I think, 40 or 50,000 square feet here. It's a Seattle-based distribution company as well. So we're happy to be involved and work with you guys on really on a daily and weekly basis. And you guys add a lot to what we're trying to do in marketing the various assets of the region. My colleague Amy's going to share a little bit with you. Economic development, as you know, is becoming really all about talent and telling the story of the diversity of talent and the lifestyles we have here. And so we've begun to put together a lot of rich video content to tell the story When people come to the Indy region, they love it, but not everybody can come here. So how we can communicate that story digitally is important. So she's going to walk you through a new tool we have real quickly, and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm not nearly as tall as you. As Jacob said, you may all remember that I was here about a year ago talking about some of the new assets that we developed for some major projects that had come through the pipeline. And one of the things that we're really working on is telling our story, not necessarily advertising the region, but telling the story of our region, because let's face it, we have some really great stories to tell. So what that has led to is the development of two new assets. So a marketing asset library and economic development microsite builder. Say that 5 times fast. So economic development microsite builder is a tool that we are now using to respond to RFIs and RFPs. So actually we just are using this today. We're going to submit a project at about 6 o'clock, so 1 hour from now. And this is enabling us to create a custom microsite for the response to an RFP or an RFI. So not just your typical PowerPoint response, but taking all of that data and creating a custom microsite that not only answers the questions and responds to the information that's requested, but also adding in that slice of life information and some custom video content, very graphically heavy information that really kind of is going to set us apart and make us a little bit different from our competitors. But we also want to make all of that information available to local partners here. And so that's what's led to the development of our marketing asset library. Bear with me for just 1 minute. Which is available to our partners, our investors, and has been a collaboration and a labor of love over the past year with a number of partners, including the City of Greenwood. We've worked with Dana quite a bit, and what we've done is we've created basically a little bit of a buffet here. So we have a number of videos from anything you can think of, from different stories that we can tell about the Indy region. So we have different video assets, we have B-roll footage on different topics, etc. We have some regional stories, we have Indianapolis-centric stories, as I mentioned, B-roll footage. So if you just want to add into some things that you're already doing, photography, etc. This is somewhat of a beta version, so we intend to keep adding to this. But I can give you a little bit of a slice of some of the things that we have on here, and I'll give you a little bit of that right now.
I've traveled all over to different cities around this country. My daughter lives in Chicago. I came from Minneapolis. I spent a lot of time in Houston, and traffic in all of those places is just difficult to get around. Indianapolis, traffic is easy.
It's like living in a big, small town. You have the amenities of city life. 10 minutes from downtown, I have the downtown culture, arts, theaters, food, nightlife. At the same time, I can afford to live in a 3-bedroom suburban home. I don't have to commute 10 minutes back and forth. I can get anywhere in the city, basically within under half an hour.
When I talk to my friends about Indianapolis and describe it as this cosmopolitan European city, they're not sure what to think until they actually experience it for themselves. The architecture, the walkability, the energy and vibrancy, it really has kind of a European feel to it. And it's right here nestled in the Midwest.
So the intention of this marketing asset library is, obviously we have these tools available for the responses to RFPs, but we also want to make them available for local businesses, for our local communities, etc., so that they don't have to do the job of having to sell the Indy region for talent recruiting purposes, for their marketing purposes, because we all do that. We want to tell the story of how great our community and our region is to live. They have the position of recruiting for their positions. We want to do the job and help them along the way of marketing our region. So that's why we're working with all of our community partners, including the city of Greenwood, to help tell the story of how great our region is, and putting it together in a way that is easy to navigate and readily available. As I mentioned before, we are working on submitting an RFP today for a major aerospace and defense company that's seeking a number of white-collar engineering positions, all with 100K plus salaries, so fingers crossed on that one, and we're very grateful that Greenwood is submitting a site for that position. So thank you, Dana and Mayor Myers, for your help with that as well. I believe that's all that I have for the rest of my part on this. Are there any questions? And of course, we definitely want to thank you all for your support, and if there are any questions.
Questions for Amy or Jacob? Well, thank you very much for what you do for the whole region. Specifically, we're thankful for what you do for our local community here, and we obviously thank Dana as well for her efforts. So.
Absolutely, and I will, I believe I can send you all a copy of the media asset library so that you can all review it yourselves, and you can kind of take a look, and we would absolutely value your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, because like I said, it is sort of in a beta phase right now. We're in the process of obviously gathering feedback and seeing what our next iteration is going to look like. We hope to have the next version will have some additional regional photography that we're working on cataloging right now. Obviously, it takes a long time to go through 9 counties worth of regional photography, and some fact sheets, also some copy, because we realize that not everybody who works on websites, web design, etc., has a communications background. So having some available copy that's a bit that can kind of be plug and play helps with consistency that's out there, so that we don't have some misinformation that may be floating around out there. So consistency is also something that we're excited about going forward as far as our marketing initiative is going forward.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
I might note for those who may not have been here when the original presentation occurred in 2017, I think it was, and that at that time the commission approved assisting with funding at the amount of $50,000 a year, subject to annual presentations of this sort. And so I would expect that we'll be receiving an invoice in that amount at some point here in the near future, if that hasn't already been provided to us.
Yes, we would greatly appreciate continued support.
Yeah, very much appreciate your partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Turning next on our agenda to old business, consideration of this project, real estate purchase price.
And that would be mine to present. You may recall several months ago, the commission approved the Beerus project as an incentive in the amount of $309,254, not to exceed, excuse me. And it was determined that the most efficient way to provide that incentive was through a purchase agreement of real estate. And in order to do that by statute, we have to have 2 appraisals of the property, and after approving that appraisal, the average appraisal, which was in the amount of $76,100, is the average of the 2 appraisals, which was approved at the last meeting. And once that was approved, you have to, if you want to pay more than that at a subsequent meeting, after extending the offer and having it rejected, approve a higher amount. And the offer was extended at the average amount, and that was rejected. And now we have in front of us a new offer list in the amount of $309,264, which I would recommend be approved by motion if you are still inclined to proceed with that incentive project.
Is there such a motion?
So motion.
Mr. Harris moves. Is there a second? I'll second that. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next is consideration of a counteroffer on 180 East Main Street. Is this Kevin? I guess we call this early evening, Kevin.
Yes. Yeah, 5 o'clock transitions again. This is 180 East Main Street. We actually brought this property to you at the average of the 2 appraisals last meeting, at the May meeting. We presented the offer to the owner, Mr. Rail of Beach Grove. He rejected it. Came back about 10% higher. The new list offer sheet has been submitted to you, $56,500. We think that's a fair price for this property, and will continue to increase our redevelopment property assembly on the block between Main, McKinley, and Washington. That would be our third property, and that little alleyway there is actually currently owned by someone who's been deceased since the Clinton administration. So since we will own the property on both sides, we'll work to quiet that title and have 4 parcels on that lot. Are there any questions?
Kevin, is this, I forget the last offering price we did.
It was 50,000 flat, I believe. So it's just slightly
So
above.
this is in the ballpark of what the counter offer that he presented?
That was the original offer. We averaged it 2 appraisals. He came back at 56.5 when we were at 50, and we found that, considering what we paid for other assets in that area, it seemed fair to city staff.
Is there a motion to, if there's no other question for Kevin, is there a motion to approve the list of offering price of $56,500 for the 180 East Main Street property?
From Centralton.
Yes. So
I have a question, but
Go ahead.
I'm just going to make a motion.
is that your motion?
Yeah, I'll motion that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
And then Kevin, what's the intent of the city for this property?
So, as I said, we'll go back. I think you can see it a little bit better. On this block between the 2 presidentially named streets, we've acquired the Green building.
Right.
We acquired the large cinder block house behind it. And now, assuming this closes, this building as well, and then the file for quiet title and the parcel in between them. The front 2 buildings for now, we don't have immediate plans to remove. We have been kind of shopping around to some architects and looking at massing. We knew we needed to get this one under contract before we really had, something we could really look at. We know that the back parcel has already been approved for demolition. We're just waiting on the water company to disconnect its utility, and we will demolish that, which is already funded. So we're trying. How it all plays out is yet to be determined, but we know this is one of the areas that is most listed as a blight area. It's right across from Station 91, Spring Square Park, and that between redevelopment / preserving pieces of this block, or half block in this case now that we've acquired, and some selective demolition, we've got the opportunity for a pretty good development parcel. So we'll keep you posted as we continue on.
So that's an I don't know, right?
It's a.
Sounds like
there's
a lawyer's
multiple-
item.
It's definitely a qualified item. There are multiple tracks to much higher and better uses for the city overall than what pre-existed, which was multi-tenant configurations in these commercial buildings for the last several decades.
It's gonna be great when he testifies before Congress. All that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Further questions for Kevin?
Just don't make them testify for me. They're busy.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Kevin, you're staying up for
Yeah.
the Serena Way extension.
Serena Way, the document you have before you is the substantial completion for everything but landscape and electrical. The poles on the lights in the parking lot adjacent to the library and OLG have, we might decide to get those repainted and look at them. They have a few scuffs on them. And it's within the warranty period, and then they're doing landscape punch items as we speak now. So everything else has gone fine. Came in well within the original budget that we had, and just waiting for some punch list items on the electrical and landscape, but everything else has been certified. So we're able to package that and turn that around in a year.
So you're asking for approval of certificate of substantial completion?
Correct.
Is there such a motion by the commission?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passes. And then, Kevin, we're moving down to Emerson Avenue, correct?
Yeah, so this is a two-part. On Emerson Avenue Phase 1, it should have the substantial completion certificate hopefully next month, depending on how quickly Milestone can get it turned around. But we've got that phase completely done. Hopefully, I think Mr. Watson works there, so he's probably on it quite often. Landscape, pretty much every tree survived, which is rare. So it is complete, and we're moving on to Emerson Avenue Phase 2, which is in the same geographical area, but it's different features. It is decorative lighting, decorative signals, and then reconstructing the kind of improvised sidewalk configurations that are on there. If you recall, we split these into two projects just because the amount of road work and projects that we had, we wanted it to be turned around quick. We were able to pave them at night and limit the impact on traffic. So what I'll be asking for, or get essentially bringing forth in July, is the bids. Hopefully a bid will be responsible and reasonable, whatever the magic words are from legal, to deliver that second phase of the Emerson Avenue streetscape. If you recall, this was contemplated originally in one phase, but we split it into two in a bond we did, I think in either early 2018 or 2017.
Any questions for Kevin regarding Emerson Avenue project status? Okay. 523 South Madison.
523 South Madison is, first of all, fully demolished, less one small mountain of gravel. That is actually headed to the DPW site, we believe, for additional undercutting if it ever stops raining. It is buttoned up. They've gotten the, on the field house, you've seen that they've done that enclosure so that it can move forward with the next phase of its redevelopment. What this is we passed a professional services for the creation of the documents, engineering and planning wise for the issuance of an RFP, particularly for the northern block, for some of the private massing and commercial features up there. In coordination with our CDS and stormwater departments, decided that it would be beneficial to the redevelopment commission to get a master stormwater plan for those 20 acres so that as we look at massing it, we can be kosher with those various guidelines as far as water quality and water retention on site. We're going to have to get a little bit innovative, we think. And so Crossroad, who's done a lot of work for us underneath Rondell-Ellensberger in regard to survey and is familiar with the 523 site, submitted this $13,250 amendment to that RFP contract with Rondell-Ellensberger that we passed, I think, 2 months ago. So I'd like to ask for a motion or a action to improve that increase of $3,250 for stormwater master drainage plan for the 20-acre redevelopment parcel at the former Greenwood Middle School site.
Kevin, is that 3,250?
No, it's 13,250. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. 13,250.
I thought maybe he was just speaking too fast and glossed over the 10,000.
No.
Questions for Kevin on this? Pleasure of the commission with respect to this amendment. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll motion that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And did we mention where that would be paid from, which?
It will follow. I think we did East Side out of for the original RFP. So since it's an amendment to that, we'll follow the resolution or the motion for what that original contract was. I'm fairly certain it's East Side, but it's definitely in the minutes. So
I'll confirm.
I think it's East Side because the project code links to the East Side, and that would make most sense for Greg.
Thank you.
Moving on to phase 3, the consideration of the professional service agreement with REA for phase 3 design service.
So this is Madison Avenue. This is the first of 2 readings. We'll be back since it's over $100,000 next month. And so some context on this for some of you who weren't on the RDC at the time. In 2016, RDC contracted with Rundell Ernstberger Association, who actually designed a couple of those pictures that the Indy Chamber showed there, the cultural trail and whatnot, to help get some momentum on Greenwood's Old Town. They did not only the downtown development plan that's guiding work at the middle school in areas like Old City Park and the amphitheater, which is already complete, and Serena Way, which is already complete. But they also did a corridor study. The idea is that Maine and Madison play essential roles in the old part of town that's in the northern/eastern quadrant of the city. The Madison Avenue streetscape was part of that. It was then included when we went to the Common Council and amended the economic development documents, and it included phases from County Line Road all the way down to the roundabout at Smith Valley. Phase 1 started to be designed immediately after the City Council approved that EDA amendment, and it became an authorized expense, and it was constructed in 2018. Here's an aerial shot of that, an area Mr. Harris might be familiar with. In the fall, it's pretty cold when we did that. And we actually added in some bike racks there recently, so it's different even now. Phase 2 of this streetscape is under design currently and slated hopefully for construction in 2020. That is south of here. That's Pearl to Maine, and it is included in a larger project called Downtown Streetscapes, which is Pearl to Maine on Madison, and then we pivot, go east, and go from Madison to Old Meridian. The interesting thing about the various treatments on Madison is that they change as the right-of-way changes. Madison narrows down, obviously, pretty severely when you're talking about between Mr. Risk Law Office and Grafton Peak, but it funnels significantly as it heads up towards County Line Road, which is both a challenge and significant opportunity. At one point, at County Line Road, it has more right-of-way than 465 had at some points, which is kind of mind-boggling. So what you're going to see here is some proposed from the original corridor study of how the sections within this section, which is Noble to Fry, would look. So you move north of Noble, and one thing you'll notice is that the turn lane reappears. It narrowed down there in the kind of village area of Madison, but as the right of way gets larger, it reappears. So you can see in the proposed concept here, still have the turn lane between Noble and Madison Drive, which goes into some apartment complexes up there north of that's a Methodist church. We also carry forward the sidewalk extensions on the east side of the road. There was no sidewalk north of Longden. We ran it from Longden to Noble last year. And so we keep carrying forward that 6-foot sidewalk on the east side, and then we carry forward the trail on the west side. It then gets even more wide. And so as we head up towards Canby, which heads over into that residential district that kind of sits on the north edge of Old Town with Horton and Fairview, you can see that not only does the center lane still exist, but we have the opportunity to get actually some trees and some stormwater detention on the east side, as well as the 6-foot sidewalk. One of the things we'll be looking at in this design is where are the inflection points going to be that we need pedestrian infrastructure for connecting east of Madison to west, which was such a challenge before. Currently at Euclid Avenue, we have the Hawk signal, which they use in Indianapolis. I think there's some I know in Butler, and I believe the University of Indianapolis even has one now. And we'd be looking for maybe one more of those. Potentially here, there's a lot of residences off Canby, but we'd also look at what is at Broadway in Madison now, which is your traditional pedestrian activated. You push the button for the yellow blinking ones. That is the treatment that used to be at Euclid in Madison prior to this project. As you can see, Madison continues to expand right away as you go north up towards Maple Street. Now it's up to 84 feet of right away. Still have 3 lanes at this point in time. We're able to have the bio retention with trees on the east side, and we carry forward the sidewalk. Now move, if you notice we have some options because we have so much right away at this point in time. If I go back, do we keep the trail as one section as it is now in front of like Vino Villa, or do you create a sidewalk on the side of the trail separate from that? That's something we'll figure out throughout the design process. Sorry, I went the wrong way. Now we get up to Fry Road, which is the end of this proposed design. You can see you're now up to 4 lanes of traffic retained, and you keep that area for runoff. So the idea would be for a potential award of this contract at the July RDC. This is kind of the introduction. The entire commitment is $544,000, which for that, this is the biggest stretch of Madison to design. It's deemed acceptable by staff. It includes everything from survey to geotechnical work. The only real kind of change in scope we might see on this is an interlocal agreement with Johnson County. There's 2 culverts from about the Korean War, I believe, that they are considering replacing. If so, they'd like to work. They replaced one bridge culvert up further north, a bigger one up by the mall a couple years ago. They'd like to work with the city and do the work at once, so that people wouldn't have to do it. So we're going to work with them to their the county drainage board and the bridge fund to see if they want to partner with us. We did this on a couple other projects where we've counties come in and change the culvert when we're doing road work and help citizens out. So, any questions?
And which fund would this be paid from?
Well, we won't have a resolution tonight, but the idea would be the Fry Road
video you asking for?
No, it's not. This is just the fact that we talk about it's gonna be $100,000. We make sure it's out in the public for a meeting before we take any official action.
Anything else from you, Kevin?
No.
Is that enough? Okay. Well, thanks very much. We'll move on to department reports, starting with Mr. Hudson, legal department.
Early this year, the city entered into an agreement with TAF to begin working on capital projects on a discounted hourly basis. A decision was made sometime this spring to create a separate matter for that, and we presented an engagement letter which the RDC approved. The letter was signed after the work commenced, which is not unusual in legal agreements. So I'm here today to request a motion from the RDC to apply the terms of that contract to all works on capital projects from the beginning of the year forward.
Questions for Sam? Is there such a motion?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Sam. Mr. Watson, anything else from you?
The only thing I have relates to the one-click annual report that was included within the SharePoint documents, and I think separately emailed to everyone. And I did review it and compared it to what the project agreement requires, and I found it to be in compliance with what was required. No action is needed to be taken other than to acknowledge its receipt in compliance with the project.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wright does not appear to be present, so we'll move on to Mr. Johnston. Evening, Brandon.
Evening.
No, it's on there. Go over to the left. Fourth item.
All right. Good evening. I have a number of items for you. First, associated with Worsville Road, Section 3. A lot of these are the first meeting. Actually, the first three items are all the first meeting. We'll be back in July for an action. The first is commitment of our local funds. This will be the city's portion for both construction and construction inspection costs. The letting we're looking at is October of this fall. NDOT has a policy of getting the commitment of local funds about 90 to 120 days in advance of the letting date. And that, like I mentioned, this is for construction inspection. A lot of these funds will come out of the east side tip, so RDC will be that fiscal body to make that commitment. Just a quick little rehash of Worsville Road Section 3. This is part of the overall city's plan for the Worsville Road corridor. Existing, this is between Averett Road and US 31. It's currently two-lane road with a box culvert over Tracy Ditch. So the improvements that we'll make will be widening this out to 2 lanes in each direction with a 2-way left turn lane in the center. That box culvert over Tracy Ditch will be converted into a bridge, and there will actually be 4-way, the all-way stop intersection at Averett will become a roundabout. Just a quick little typical section of what that, generally what the road will look like. 2 lanes in each direction. There will be a trail on the south side, the right side of the image, and a sidewalk on the north side. So the construction cost estimate that we're looking at is in that range, 10 million to 11 million. So the construction inspection estimate will be on the order of $1.26 million. And so the estimated local portion of the costs of both of those plus an additional 10% contingency is at $2,528,000 is what we've estimated. So like I mentioned, no official action. This is just presenting this to you. We'll be back with more defined numbers in July. Any questions?
Daniel, when is the, you mentioned converting the all-way to a roundabout right there. There's some schools around there? So I'm assuming you would, your construction schedule would take that into consideration with respect to when you close that road down and when you open it back up?
That's correct. We are working to coordinate a MOT meeting with some of the stakeholders, including some of those schools nearby,
Right.
to get them to the table just to talk about it. But yes, we're going to have to work with them and during those times.
There's kind of no other way to get to Greenwood Christian and then the other Greenwood Christian Elementary and then obviously the new school. So I was just making sure we coordinate there. You guys can coordinate that.
Yes.
I have a question. On the one slide, you have the initials TWLTL. What does that stand for?
Two-way left turn lane. So that's the flush median there.
I was trying to figure it out, but I wouldn't get anywhere.
What was going through your mind, Mike? You
Yeah.
got any options?
Yeah, well, it wasn't fitting with anything I was coming up with.
All right, sorry, any questions on that? Okay. The next item that I have is also a first reading item. This is consideration of utility reimbursements. We have two utilities that are eligible for reimbursement. They are within documented easements. So we're having them move for, as a result of this project, some of those funds, they can be reimbursed by the city. The first is Duke Energy. So here I've got an image of the Averett and Worsville Road intersection. The red cloud kind of identifies where they've got about 3 poles, maybe 4 poles, I think, along Averett Road that will be impacted by the project. They are within an easement, and so we will need to reimburse Duke Energy for that effort. Just to note, this does not include the Duke Energy poles that are on the north side of the majority of Worsville Road. Those are not included. They will be relocated as part of the project, but there is no relocation cost, no reimbursement cost to the city as a result of those poles. We are only reimbursing Duke for the poles along Averett Road. And so we anticipate, based on their cost estimate that they provided, just over $190,000. The next is BP. So BP actually, digging into this, their easement was originally granted back in 1908, if I read it correctly. The city entered into an agreement with BP in 2015, and actually this is kind of a cause for the S-curves in alignment. I've got a graphic that will kind of explain that. Originally there was a proposed trail that conflicted with this easement and BP's existing pipe. BP provided 2 options in terms of their relocation efforts. One was complete removal, and this is roughly from, I'll say, Tracy Ditch to US 31 for approximate range. They also identified a potential for just a partial removal of their pipe. The city, we reevaluated what can we do to eliminate the conflict on our end. We sent them a third option. We haven't had a response from them yet. I think that would basically eliminate, if I were to give a percentage, I'd say 80% of the conflicts. We'll still have conflicts at or near in the vicinity of the intersection of US 31. We just won't be able to avoid it. But in general, we're hoping that they will come back supportive of our recommended option. Just a quick graphic approximating, we have the yellow band there that marks out the, if you can see it, hopefully you can, the BP easement coming diagonally across Summerfield Park, and then it's on the south side of existing Worsville Road. BP is still going to maintain their easement rights, so our road is not able to be within that easement. Hence driving the need for the realignment of Worsville Road in that area. And you can see towards the US 31 intersection where the road, as it ties back in with the intersection, we won't be able to avoid the conflict with their easement. So the anticipated costs, I mentioned there were different levels of removal. So if BP, I guess I should say also for the agreement in terms of the option that's chosen, if I read it correctly, and I'll double check with legal, it sounds like the choice will actually be BP's choice as to the option that's chosen. So I have the prices here of those different options. $268,000 for full removal of their pipe within that band where it was parallel to the roadway, or $209,000 for a partial removal. They would end up removing about 25% of the pipe. And then our city's option, like I mentioned, they have not given us an estimate of what that reduced cost might be. So still interested to see what that might be. So today, again, no official action, just bringing to you the potential for up to $268,000 as a potential reimbursement to BP if that's the option they chose to proceed with.
And Daniel, you said the partial removal was only like 25% of the pipe being removed?
That's correct. I'm sorry, I should have clarified. The rest of the length of the pipe will be grouted in place.
So that's why there'd be not 25% of the cost of 260.
Right, still a significant cost, yes, I apologize.
It's my understanding that when we did the expansion of Worsville Road east of 31, that we had significant difficulties with BP and trying to get things done. And have we run into any difficulties at this point? I know you said you haven't heard back from them. Has it been a reasonable amount of time, or?
I would think that we would have received a response by now, but I know that our consultants have been reaching out to them.
Yeah.
Certainly, to receive these costs, we're glad when we receive that information from them.
Yeah, I'm not positive. It's my understanding that there were significant delays in the completion of Worsville Road. I mean, by significant, a year delays in the construction because BP would not communicate with us, and it was difficult. So you may have access to that information more than I. You may be aware, but I would caution us to be diligent about dealing with them because they've been a problem in the past.
And certainly, it was those considerations why we came up with our recommended option to eliminate as much as possible any physical conflict between our project and their pipe.
All right.
So definitely understood your concern.
I would just hate to see us get into this and then thinking BP's going to get back with us and then run into the same problem again. So, all right, thank you.
Earlier in your presentation, you referenced the S curves and alignment. Is that in reference to the diagram here and the offsets? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Any other questions? Or? All right. The next item that I have, this is again a first meeting item, consideration of a design supplement with United Consulting. I just wanted to kind of walk you through some of the where we are and the different original contract and the different supplements. So the original contract was back in the fall of 2013, and apologize if I can't read the numbers. The scope associated with that was basically primarily the environmental document for sections 1, 2, and 3. This is Worsville Road from State Road 135 all the way over to US 31. It also included some preliminary design of section 2, which is the segment from Honey Creek to Averett. And then in the winter of 2015, we had the first supplemental increase. That was specifically for final design and right-of-way services for section 3, which we are going to be letting later this fall. And then supplement 2 was an additional increase in late summer 2016 for design and right-of-way services for section 2, which actually has a letting next fall, November of 2020. And so the supplement that I am bringing you, or at least for the first meeting, will be an increase of $503,339. This is the initial number that they provide, that United has provided. with them. But there you can see on the right, the total amount, if that were the number of what that contract amount would become with all the supplements. And then a quick list of the different services that were included in this. I think the one key item would be the bridge design and hydraulic calculations related to the bridge design of Tracy Ditch, or over Tracy Ditch. That was not part of the original scope, not part of the original cost estimate. It was later determined that it was needed. And what they did at the time was they took a chunk out of the roadway funds and used that to begin the bridge work. So this effort there would be to provide them the funds for that bridge design that they've actually worked on. There was some additional survey, additional work on the environmental document. We held an additional public meeting, and certainly some additional right-of-way services as the project scope kind of increased. We had a number of unique special design tasks requested by the city for the detention pond along section 3 and then specific driveways to accommodate some of the requests of the property owners along the project. And actually, this also incorporates a credit or a reduction of some tasks associated with the roundabout at Averett, also lighting tasking and utility coordination. So, no official action tonight, but we'll have a more refined number in July. Any questions on that? I've been providing you monthly updates on our relocation costs, so this is where we are now. Cumulatively, just over $325,000 for relocation costs. And just to clarify, these are for the mobile home sites. It is separate from any land acquisition costs. So it's increased just under $11,000 since the prior RDC meeting.
How many more do we have to go?
I don't have that number.
Okay. I know it slowed down last week.
It has, yes. And then on the agenda, there was a request for signatures on the title sheet. I will have that for you at the next meeting in July. If there's no other questions about the Worsville Road, section 3 on project or items, I'll move on to this next one.
Okay.
All right. Worsville Road and Collins Road. This will be a new traffic signal. Through our discussions with Skinnell Properties and Amazon associated with the new Amazon facility east of I-65, we mutually determined it would be beneficial to have a traffic signal here at Worsville Road and Collins. A&F Engineering has done the design, and so what next step is to seek bids. And so that is what my request is tonight, authorize city staff to proceed with seeking bids for construction of the new traffic signal at Worsville Road and Collins Road intersection.
So motion to approve that request? Mr. Moan? You heard a second? Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. And then my last item is just a real quick update here at Smith Valley and Madison Roundabout. Last night they started on the rehab, the replacement of the surface pavement. Standard NDOT testing that was conducted as part of last summer's construction determined that the surface layer, this was the top 2 inches of the pavement, failed some of their criteria and warranted to be replaced. And so the contractor is in the process of doing that. This is at no cost to NDOT, no cost to the city. So for the next 2 weeks, they'll be working in the area. It's all at nighttime. We did not want to impact the drivers. And actually the work areas will vary each night based on where the contractor is working. We've asked them to install plenty of detour signage, barrels, cones, that sort of thing to make it clear for the public as they go through. So, just an update.
It seems they keep it open during the day.
That's correct. Yep. So unless unless you have any other questions, that's all I have.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Adam Stone, he has a couple things on the agenda, but I don't see him here.
I believe he indicated he was not gonna be able to be here today. I would note, in case there's no one else here to speak on his behalf, the second item there certainly does need, action. First, as far as I know, not as critical.
No,
Mandy, do you have any
I
other-
know the budget talks are in discussion right now with departments. I would think that if action needs to be taken by that, we could do that next month. If there's something different, I'll let the commission know if something has to be done different.
If you'd like, I can speak to the second item.
Please.
As an annual requirement of this redevelopment statute, the commission has to make a determination as to whether or not there is any excess assessed valuation to be released back to the underlying taxing units. Adam provided a memo similar to what he has done in the past with various calculations that I believe he determined that because of pending and outstanding projects that still need to be funded, that it would be reasonable to make a determination that we still need to capture 100% of the available assessed value. And so if you agree with that, the appropriate action would be to make a motion to determine to capture all of the available assessed value.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
And will you make sure that the notices are taken care of?
Yes, they will.
All right, thank you.
Nothing from the mayor's office. Amanda, I have a couple,
I was gonna bring that up after you did the docket, unless you may bring it up now.
bring it up now, let's talk about it.
In connection to the Veers project, Mr. Watson provided the invoices for Stevenson Realty Advisors and Valbridge Property Advisors. Stevenson was for $2,800, Valbridge was for $1,600, and I would request if we could get a motion to approve payment, so that doesn't have to wait another month, a total of $4,400. I believe that would come out of the east side TIF for where the project's located.
Yes.
And then if it's so approved, I would request that Kevin and Brian initial the invoice so I can have finance pay the bill.
Is there such a motion? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And then I could have one more thing. I did confirm through the meeting. Accelerate Indy has submitted their invoice, and the finance department has cut the check. They were just waiting on this commission's action, if you're so inclined, based off today's presentation, to approve $50,000. That can go ahead and be moved and done, or it can wait till the July meeting.
You did not include it in the
I did not have that, but Greg did confirm that that has been received, and he is holding it based on your action and how you want to move forward, if you want to approve the funding.
pleasure of the commission. Might as well get her out of the road.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd make a motion to approve the funding as presented.
Is there a second? Not a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That is all I have, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the June 19 claims docket, the total amount is $1,284,913.57. Is there a motion to approve that docket?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Anything else for the good of the cause? If not, we'll stand adjourned at 5:55 p.m. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You.